I should have known how tonight would go the moment I walked into Mom's perfectly decorated dining room and saw where she'd placed the name cards. Marcus at Dad's right hand, of course. Me squeezed between Aunt Linda and Cousin Jake, practically hidden behind the centerpiece. "Nick, there you are, sweetheart," Mom called out, rushing over in her emerald green dress, the one she saves for special occasions. "You look lovely, dear. Did you remember to pick up Dad's cake from the bakery?" "Of course I did, Mom. It's in the kitchen." I handed her the keys to my car. "The flowers are in the back seat, too." She kissed my cheek quickly before hurrying off to orchestrate the evening. That's what I do. Handle the logistics while everyone else gets to enjoy the celebration. I've been doing it for so long I barely notice anymore. The house buzzed with conversation as guests filtered in. Dad's colleagues from the law firm, neighbors from our suburban Chicago street, family friends who'd watched Marcus and me grow up. Everyone seemed genuinely excited to be here, celebrating Robert Harrison's 60th birthday. "Nick!" Uncle Tom wrapped me in a bear hug. "How's the job search going? Still looking for something in marketing?" "Actually, I just started at Morrison & Associates last month. It's a great opportunity." I tried to keep the pride out of my voice. It was a really good job, one I'd worked hard to get. "That's wonderful. You'll have to tell your dad. I'm sure he'll be thrilled." I glanced across the room where Dad stood with Marcus, both of them laughing at something on Marcus's phone. Dad's arm was draped around my brother's shoulders, and I could see the genuine joy in his eyes. When was the last time he looked at me like that? Marcus caught my eye and waved me over. At 27, he had that effortless charm that made people gravitate toward him. Tall, dark-haired like Dad, with the kind of smile that photographers love. He'd just gotten engaged to Sarah, a sweet kindergarten teacher who worshipped the ground he walked on. "Hey, sis, Dad was just telling me about the new partnership at the firm. Sounds like business is booming." "It really is," Dad beamed. "We just landed the Henderson account. Biggest client we've ever had. Things are finally falling into place after all these years of hard work." I knew about the Henderson account. I'd spent 3 weekends helping Dad prepare his presentation, researching their company history, and organizing his notes. But I didn't mention that. "That's amazing, Dad. You deserve all the success." Sarah appeared at Marcus's side, practically glowing with happiness. "Mr. Harrison, I can't thank you enough for letting us announce our engagement tonight. It means the world to have your blessing." Dad's face lit up even brighter. "Are you kidding? Having another daughter to spoil?" I couldn't be happier. He pulled Sarah into a hug, and I felt that familiar twist in my stomach. Another daughter to spoil. When had he ever spoiled me? Mom clinked her knife against her wine glass, calling everyone to attention. If everyone could take their seats, we're about to serve dinner. I found my spot at the table, wedged between Aunt Linda's loud perfume and Jake's endless sports commentary. From here, I had a perfect view of the head of the table where Dad sat like a king, flanked by his golden children, Marcus and Sarah. Dinner passed in a blur of congratulations and laughter. Marcus regaled everyone with stories from his job at the tech startup, making even the most mundane work situations sound like adventures. Sarah shared details about their wedding plans, and everyone oohed and awed over her engagement ring. I tried to contribute to the conversation a few times, mentioning a successful campaign I'd just finished at work, but somehow the topic always shifted back to Marcus. It was like being a background character in someone else's movie. As Mom brought out the birthday cake, the one I'd picked up, of course, Dad stood up, wine glass in hand. The room fell quiet, anticipating his speech. 35 years ago, when I started my practice, I never imagined I'd be sitting here today, surrounded by so much love and success. His voice was warm with emotion. This year has been incredible. The firm is thriving, and more importantly, I'm watching my son become the man I always knew he could be. Dad's eyes found Marcus across the table. "Marcus, you've made me prouder than I ever thought possible. Your innovation at Dataflow Solutions, your engagement to this wonderful woman, you're building something real, something lasting. You represent everything I hope to pass on to the next generation." The room erupted in applause. Marcus stood up, humble and gracious, accepting congratulations from everyone around the table. I clapped too, because what else was I supposed to do? But as the applause died down and Dad prepared to sit back down, something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was 25 years of being invisible finally catching up with me. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I'd like to say something too. The room went completely silent. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. 15 pairs of eyes stared at me, some curious, others uncomfortable. Mom's face had gone pale, and I could see her mentally calculating how to gracefully redirect the conversation away from whatever I was about to say. Dad looked confused, like he couldn't quite process why I was still standing. "Of course, sweetheart. What would you like to add?" My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. I looked around the table. At Uncle Tom, who'd asked about my job search earlier, at Cousin Jake, who never remembered my name, at family friends who always asked about Marcus first. Then my eyes landed on my brother. Marcus was watching me with genuine concern, probably worried I was about to embarrass myself. Sarah squeezed his hand supportively. Even in this moment, they looked like the perfect couple, the kind of people who belonged in magazine spreads about successful young professionals. I just wanted to say something about success. I began, my voice steadier than I felt. And about family. Mom relaxed slightly. This sounded safe enough. Dad, you talked about Marcus representing everything you hoped to pass on to the next generation. And you're right. He has achieved amazing things. But I think there's more to the story than what we've heard tonight. The room shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't going where anyone expected. Nick, Marcus started, but I held up my hand. Please let me finish. I've been quiet for 25 years. I think I've earned a few minutes. Dad frowned, clearly not liking the direction this was heading. What are you trying to say, Nicole? Nicole? He only used my full name when he was annoyed with me. I'm trying to say that success isn't always what it looks like from the outside. I took a deep breath, knowing there was no going back after this. Marcus, remember when you were applying to Stanford? When your essay wasn't quite coming together? His face went white. Nick, don't. I spent 2 weeks rewriting it for you. Not editing, rewriting. From scratch. The essay that got you into Stanford? That launched your entire career? I wrote it. The silence was deafening now. Sarah looked between Marcus and me, confusion written all over her face. That's not... Marcus started, then stopped. What about your senior thesis? The one that got you summa cum laude honors? The one that impressed the recruiter from Dataflow so much that they hired you straight out of college? My voice was getting stronger with each word. I researched every source, wrote every page, stayed up until 3 a.m. for 6 months straight to make sure it was perfect. Nick, you're exaggerating. But Marcus's voice lacked conviction. Am I? What about the quarterly reports you've been presenting at Dataflow? The innovative marketing strategies that got you promoted last year? The client presentations that made you Employee of the Month 3 times running? Uncle Tom was staring at Marcus now, his expression shifting from admiration to something closer to disappointment. You've been helping your brother with work projects? Dad asked, still not quite grasping the full scope of what I was revealing. Helping? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad, I've been doing Marcus's job for him for 3 years. Every major project, every presentation, every strategic decision that made him look like a genius, I've been the one behind it. Sarah's hand dropped from Marcus's. Is this true? Marcus looked around the table desperately, as if searching for an escape route. It's not like that. Nick helped me, yes, but what? But you took all the credit? But you let Dad toast you for achievements that weren't yours? But you let everyone believe you were this brilliant innovator while I worked 2 jobs and spent my nights ghostwriting your success? The room was completely silent now, except for the sound of my own breathing. I could see Aunt Linda's mouth hanging open slightly, and Cousin Jake had put down his wineglass like he was afraid he might drop it. And the best part? I continued, feeling a strange sense of liberation as years of resentment poured out. While I was building Marcus's career, what was I doing with my own life? Working retail jobs to pay my student loans because Dad's college fund only covered Marcus's education. Living in a studio apartment because I couldn't afford anything bigger while sending half my paycheck to help with Marcus's rent in his fancy downtown loft. Dad's face had gone from confused to angry. Nicole, that's enough. No, Dad. It's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. I turned to face him directly. Do you know that I graduated with a 3.9 GPA? Do you know that I won the Morrison account at my new job last month? The biggest client they've landed in 5 years? Do you know that I've been nominated for a regional marketing award? His expression flickered with something that might have been surprise. Of course you don't know, because every time I tried to tell you about my achievements, you'd change the subject to Marcus. Every family dinner, every phone call, every conversation somehow became about your golden boy and his latest triumph. I looked around the table one more time, at faces that ranged from shocked to uncomfortable to sympathetic. I don't want to ruin Dad's birthday. I really don't. But I couldn't sit here for one more minute and listen to everyone praise Marcus for work that I did while I remained invisible. I picked up my purse from the back of my chair. Happy birthday, Dad. I hope you enjoy the rest of your celebration. As I walked toward the door, I heard chairs scraping and voices starting to murmur. Someone called my name. I think it was Uncle Tom. But I kept walking. I was almost to the front door when I heard footsteps behind me. Nick, wait. I turned around to find Marcus standing in the hallway, his face a mixture of guilt and desperation. Behind him, I could hear the murmur of confused voices from the dining room, guests trying to process what had just happened. probably wondering if they should leave or pretend they hadn't witnessed a family implosion. Nick, please. We need to talk about this. Talk about what, Marcus? About how you've been lying to everyone for years? About how you've built your entire career on my work? I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to let them fall. Not now. Not when I finally had the courage to speak my truth. It wasn't supposed to go this far. His voice was barely above a whisper. The Stanford essay. I was going to rewrite it myself, but then I got accepted and everything happened so fast. And the thesis? And the job projects? Did those just happen fast too? He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized from our childhood when he'd been caught doing something wrong. You're so much better at this stuff than I am. The writing, the research, the strategic thinking, it all comes naturally to you. I struggle with it. So you thought it was okay to steal my work instead of admitting you needed help. I never thought of it as stealing. We're family. I thought you wanted to help me. The audacity of that statement took my breath away. Wanted to help you? Marcus, I've been drowning trying to keep up with your demands while building my own life. Do you have any idea what it's like to watch someone else get praised and promoted for work you did? I know I should have given you credit. Credit? I laughed bitterly. You think this is about credit? This is about respect. This is about Dad looking at you like you hung the moon while I might as well be invisible. We both turned as footsteps approached. Dad appeared in the hallway, his face thunderous. Behind him came Mom, looking like she was about to have a nervous breakdown. What is the meaning of this, Nicole? Dad's voice was cold in a way I hadn't heard since I was a teenager. You've just humiliated your brother in front of our entire family. I humiliated him? What about the way I've been humiliated for years? What about the way you just stood up there and praised him for achievements that weren't his? That's enough, Dad's voice boomed through the hallway. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this jealousy has gone too far. Jealousy? The word hit me like a slap. You think this is jealousy? Mom stepped forward, her hands fluttering nervously. Sweetheart, maybe we should all calm down and discuss this privately. The guests are hearing the truth for the first time, Mom. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Dad's jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might crack. The truth? The truth is that you're trying to tear down your brother because you can't stand to see him succeed. Robert, Mom said quietly, but he held up a hand to silence her. No, Linda. This has been building for months. The snide comments, the attitude. I thought it was just a phase, but clearly Nicole has some serious issues with her brother's success. Something cold settled in my chest. Even now, faced with evidence of what had really happened, he was choosing Marcus. He was making me the villain rather than acknowledging what his golden boy had done. Issues with his success? I repeated slowly. Dad, I just told you that I've been doing Marcus's work for years, that the success you're so proud of isn't even his. And your response is to accuse me of jealousy? People help each other in families, Nicole. That doesn't diminish Marcus's achievements. Help each other? My voice was rising again. When have you ever helped me? When I needed money for college, you said I should learn to be independent. When I couldn't afford textbooks, you told me to get a job. But Marcus gets a full ride, a monthly allowance, and a cosigner for his apartment lease. Dad's face reddened. Marcus has always been focused on his goals. He's always known what he wanted to do with his life. And I haven't? Do you even know what my goals are, Dad? Do you know what I want to do with my life? The silence that followed was answer enough. Marcus finally spoke up. Nick, I'm sorry. I really am. I know I should have been more upfront about how much you helped me. Helped you? I turned to face him fully. Marcus, I didn't help you. I did the work. There's a difference. Okay, fine. You did the work. I should have told people. I should have given you credit. You should have done your own work. I tried. Do you think I wanted to rely on you? Do you think it feels good knowing that everyone thinks I'm some kind of genius when really I can barely write a coherent email? For the first time, I heard real pain in his voice. But I was too angry, too hurt to feel sympathy. Then maybe you should have chosen a different career path. Maybe you should have found something you were actually good at instead of building your life on a lie. That's enough from both of you, Dad interjected. This family meeting is over. Nicole, I think you should go home and think about what you've done here tonight. What I've done? I stared at him in disbelief. What about what Marcus has done? What about what you've done by playing favorites for 25 years? I have never played favorites. The denial was so absolute, so completely disconnected from reality, that I actually laughed. Really? Never? Dad, you just gave a toast praising Marcus for achievements that weren't his while barely acknowledging that I exist. How is that not playing favorites? Your brother has worked hard. So have I, but you've never seen it because you've never bothered to look. I could hear voices from the dining room getting louder. Apparently the guests were starting to leave. probably uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding in the next room. "Look what you've done," Mom said tearfully. "You've ruined Dad's birthday party." The accusation stung, but I wasn't backing down. Not anymore. "I didn't ruin anything, Mom. I just told the truth. If the truth ruins the party, maybe the party was built on a lie to begin with." I looked at the three of them standing there. Dad red-faced and defensive, Mom wringing her hands, Marcus looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. My family. The people who were supposed to love and support me unconditionally. "I'm going home," I said quietly. "And I'm done. I'm done doing Marcus's work. I'm done pretending everything is fine. And I'm done being invisible in my own family." I turned toward the door, but Dad's voice stopped me one more time. "If you walk out that door, don't expect things to just go back to normal." I looked back at him, and for a moment I saw something that might have been uncertainty flicker across his face. "Good," I said, because normal was killing me. I sat in my car outside Mom and Dad's house for 20 minutes, hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. Through the large front windows, I could see guests filtering out, their conversations hushed and hurried. Uncle Tom paused on the front steps, looking back at the house with a troubled expression before shaking his head and walking to his car. My phone buzzed. A text from my coworker, Jessica. "How's the family party? Having fun?" I stared at the message, not sure how to answer. How do you explain that you just blew up your entire family in front of 15 people? That you finally told the truth after years of living a lie, and instead of feeling victorious, you just felt empty? I drove home to my small apartment in Lincoln Park, the same studio Dad had dismissed as temporary when I'd moved in 3 years ago. Tonight, though, it felt like a sanctuary. My space, paid for with my own money, decorated with things I'd chosen myself. No one could take credit for this. But as I sat on my couch, still in the dress I'd carefully picked out for Dad's birthday, the weight of what had happened began to sink in. I'd just severed ties with my family, maybe permanently. And for what? To prove a point? To get the recognition I'd been craving? My phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail, then immediately played the message. "Nick, please call me back. I know you're angry and you have every right to be, but we need to talk. This doesn't have to be the end of everything." I deleted the message without saving it. Over the next 3 days, I threw myself into work with an intensity that surprised even me. The Morrison account project I'd mentioned at dinner was actually a major presentation scheduled for Friday, and suddenly it felt like the most important thing in the world. If my family couldn't see my worth, maybe my colleagues would. "You're here early again," my boss, David Morrison, commented Thursday morning as he found me already at my desk at 7 a.m. "Everything okay? Just want to make sure tomorrow's presentation is perfect." He studied my face with the kind of perception that made him a good manager. "The presentation was ready 2 days ago, Nick. You've been polishing it obsessively. What's really going on?" I looked up from my laptop, suddenly feeling exhausted. "Family stuff," he nodded knowingly. "Ah, the kind that makes you question everything about yourself? Something like that. Want some advice from someone who's been there?" He poured himself coffee from the machine in our small break area. "Sometimes the people who should believe in us most are the ones who have the hardest time seeing who we really are. They get stuck seeing the version of us they expect instead of the version we've become." His words hit closer to home than I'd expected. What if they never see it? Then you keep being who you are anyway. Eventually, either they catch up, or you realize you don't need their validation to be successful. That afternoon, my phone rang again. This time it was Mom. "Nicole, honey, we need to talk." "I don't think we do, Mom. Please. Your father, he's been in a difficult mood since the party, and Marcus is beside himself. We need to figure out how to fix this." "There's nothing to fix. I told the truth. That's not something that needs fixing. But the way you did it, sweetheart. In front of everyone. It was so hurtful." I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar pattern starting again. Make Nick feel guilty. Make Nick responsible for everyone else's feeling. Make Nick fix it. "Mom, I spent years being hurt while everyone praised Marcus for work he didn't do. But somehow my hurt doesn't matter as much as his embarrassment? That's not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying. You're asking me to apologize for telling the truth because it made other people uncomfortable. I'm asking you to think about your family. I have been thinking about my family for 25 years. I'm done being the only one." I hung up before she could respond. Friday's presentation went better than I could have hoped. The Morrison team loved the campaign strategy, and by the end of the meeting, we'd not only secured the renewal, but expanded the scope of work for the next quarter. David pulled me aside afterward. "That was exceptional work, Nick. I'm recommending you for the senior account manager position that's opening up next month." For the first time in days, I felt genuinely happy. This was mine. My work, my achievement, my success. No one could take credit for it or diminish it. But as I walked back to my desk, I felt a familiar pang. Part of me wanted to call Dad and tell him about the promotion. Part of me still craved that approval, that pride in his voice that I'd heard so many times when he talked about Marcus. Instead, I called my friend Amy from college. "Nick, how did the presentation go?" "Really well. I think I'm getting promoted." "That's amazing. We should celebrate. Want to grab dinner tonight?" "Actually, yes. I'd like that." "Great. And hey, how was your dad's birthday party? You were nervous about it." I took a breath. "It was eventful. I'll tell you about it over dinner." That evening, as I sat across from Amy at our favorite Thai restaurant, I found myself telling the whole story. Amy listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from surprise to anger to something that looked like pride. "Good for you," she said when I finished. "Good for me? I just destroyed my relationship with my family." "No, you didn't. You stopped enabling a toxic dynamic. There's a difference. But what if they never forgive me?" Amy leaned forward. "Nick, I've known you for 7 years. Do you know what I've watched you do in that time? You've put yourself through college, built a career, supported yourself completely independently, and somehow still managed to help everyone else achieve their dreams. You're one of the strongest, most capable people I know. I don't feel strong right now. That's because you've been told for so long that your worth depends on other people's approval. But it doesn't. Your worth is inherent. It's not something that can be given or taken away by anyone else." As we walked back to our cars, Amy hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. I know it hurts now, but you did the right thing." Driving home, I thought about what she'd said. Maybe this wasn't about destroying my family. Maybe it was about finally becoming the person I was meant to be, with or without their approval. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "Nick, Sarah, and I are coming over Sunday. We need to talk. Please don't ignore us." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Fine, but I'm not apologizing for telling the truth." His reply came immediately. "I'm not asking you to." For the first time since the party, I felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from the wreckage after all. Sunday afternoon arrived with an unexpected Chicago snowfall, the kind that transforms the city into something softer and quieter. I watched from my apartment window as Marcus and Sarah made their way up the steps, both looking nervous and uncertain. Sarah carried a small potted plant, a peace offering maybe, or just something to do with her hands. I opened the door before they could knock. "Hi," Marcus said simply. "Hi." We stood there for a moment, and I realized this was the first time in years that I'd seen my brother look genuinely vulnerable. Gone was the confident facade, the easy charm that had carried him through so many situations. He looked like what he was, a 27-year-old man who'd been caught in a lie and didn't know how to fix it. "Come in, I made coffee." Sarah handed me the plant as they settled on my small couch. "It's a peace lily," she said quietly. I thought, well, I hoped it might be appropriate. I set it on my kitchen counter, touched by the gesture despite everything. "Thank you." Marcus cleared his throat. "Nick, I need to start by saying that everything you said at the party was true. I've been taking credit for your work for years, and it was wrong. There's no excuse for it." I sat down across from them, surprised by his directness. "Okay. I know okay probably isn't enough. I know saying sorry doesn't fix what I've done, but I need you to understand that it wasn't malicious. I never set out to steal from you or hurt you. Then what was it?" He ran his hands through his hair, that familiar gesture. "It was cowardice, pure and simple. You've always been smarter than me, more creative, better at seeing solutions to problems. When we were kids, you'd finish your homework in 20 minutes while I struggled for hours. You'd read books in a day that took me weeks to get through." Sarah reached for his hand, encouraging him to continue. "When I got to college, I was completely overwhelmed. Everyone seemed so much more prepared than I was. And then you offered to help with that first essay. And suddenly I wasn't failing anymore. People started noticing me. Professors started praising my work. It felt incredible. So you kept asking for help. I kept asking, and you kept saying yes. And somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking of it as help and started thinking of it as normal. Like this was just how things worked between us." I felt a flash of anger. "It was normal for you. Do you have any idea what it was like for me? Working 2 jobs, staying up all night on your projects, watching you get promoted while I struggled to pay rent?" "No," he said honestly. "I didn't think about that part. I was so focused on not failing, on not disappointing everyone, that I didn't consider what it was costing you." Sarah spoke up for the first time since we'd sat down. "Marcus told me everything after the party, about all the projects, the presentations, everything. I had no idea. What do you think about it?" I asked her. She was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I think I fell in love with someone who doesn't really exist. The Marcus I thought I knew was brilliant and innovative and independent. Finding out that most of his achievements were actually yours, it's been hard to process. Marcus flinched at her words, but didn't argue. Are you still engaged? I asked. They looked at each other, and I saw a whole conversation pass between them in that glance. We're figuring it out, Sarah said finally. We're going to couples counseling. Marcus has agreed to come clean at work about which projects he actually did himself. You're going to tell Dataflow? Marcus nodded miserably. I talked to my manager yesterday. I explained that I'd been getting help with my work and that I needed to be more transparent about my actual contributions. I'll probably be demoted, maybe fired. And you're okay with that? I'm terrified, but I can't keep living this lie, especially not after seeing what it did to you. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or self-pity, but all I saw was genuine remorse. It was more honesty than I'd gotten from him in years. What about Dad? I asked. Marcus's expression darkened. He's not speaking to me right now. He says I've embarrassed the family and that I need to manage the situation better. Meaning? Meaning he wants me to convince you to retract what you said. He wants us to tell everyone that you exaggerated, that you helped me sometimes, but that I did most of the work myself. I felt my jaw clench. And what did you tell him? I told him that wasn't going to happen, that you told the truth, and I wasn't going to ask you to lie to protect my reputation. How did he take that? About as well as you'd expect? He said I was being weak, and that I was letting you manipulate me. I laughed bitterly. Of course he did. Nick, Sarah said gently, can I ask you something? I nodded. Why did you keep helping Marcus for so long, even when it was hurting you? The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on Marcus's motivations that I hadn't really examined my own. I guess I thought it was what family did, help each other succeed. And honestly, part of me hoped that if Marcus did well, it would reflect well on me too, that Dad would be proud of both of us. But he wasn't? No. Marcus's success just seemed to highlight my failures. At least, that's how Dad saw it. Marcus leaned forward. That's not failure, Nick. You've accomplished incredible things. Your job, your promotion, the way you've built your life completely independently, that's not failure. That's strength. It's taken me a long time to see it that way. What can I do to fix this? Marcus asked. I know I can't undo the years of taking credit for your work, but I want to make it right somehow. I thought about it. I want you to succeed on your own. Whatever happens at Dataflow, I want you to find something you're actually good at and build a career based on your own abilities. What if I'm not good at anything? You are. You're great with people. You're charming. You're persistent. You just need to find the right fit instead of trying to be something you're not. And us? Is there a chance we can have a real relationship? Not the one where I take advantage of you, but an actual sibling relationship? I looked at him sitting there with Sarah, both of them waiting for my answer. 3 weeks ago, I would have said yes immediately, desperate to maintain any connection with my family. But now I felt different, stronger, more aware of my own worth. I think so, I said finally, but it has to be different. I'm not your safety net anymore, Marcus. I'm not going to bail you out or do your work or cover for you. If we're going to be siblings, it has to be as equals. I understand. And I need you to understand that I'm not responsible for managing Dad's feelings about this. If he can't accept that you've been dishonest, if he can't acknowledge that I've been carrying you for years, that's his issue to work through. I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen to make him comfortable. Marcus nodded. He might never come around. I know. And I'm okay with that now. Sarah smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. You sound different, Nick. More, I don't know, confident? I feel different. It's scary, but it's also liberating. For the first time in my life, I don't need anyone else's approval to know I'm valuable. We talked for another hour, working through years of accumulated hurt and misunderstanding. It wasn't a complete healing. That would take time, but it felt like a beginning, a chance to build something real instead of the twisted dynamic we'd been living with. As they prepared to leave, Marcus hugged me for the first time in years. I'm proud of you, he said quietly, for standing up for yourself, for telling the truth, for being stronger than all of us. After they left, I sat in my apartment as the snow continued to fall outside. My phone had been quiet all week. No calls from Dad, no texts from Mom asking me to fix things. Part of me felt sad about that, but mostly I felt free. I looked at the piece Lily Sarah had brought, already brightening the corner where I'd placed it. Maybe that's what this whole experience had been. Not the destruction of my family, but the cultivation of something new, something healthier. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Congratulations on the promotion. It's official as of Monday. You've earned it. I smiled, typing back, thank you. I'm ready for it. And for the first time in my life, I truly was. Ready to succeed on my own terms. Ready to build relationships based on mutual respect. ready to use my voice instead of hiding in the shadows. The girl who had written her brother's essays and stayed silent at family dinners was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her worth and wasn't afraid to demand it be recognized. It had taken 25 years to find my voice, but now that I had it, I wasn't planning to be quiet ever again.